This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Wednesday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, the blame over the border mess, with the Biden administration saying they inherited a broken system from the Trump White House, while critics say Biden invited the migrants to come. Now the president sending a new message to those heading to the U.S. Taking on big tech. Activist groups want the states to take on the social media giants over claims of censoring and deplatforming conservatives. A sign of the times, coming trends like a digital currency and cashless society that could change your life. And Christians helping Jews move to their new home in Israel. All those stories and more are ahead in today's edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to begin this half hour with a developing crisis on the border. President Biden sending a message to migrants in an interview with ABC News, telling them not to come to the United States.
Don't come, and what we're in the process of getting set up, don't leave your town or city or community.
Critics blame the Biden administration for the border situation, saying he encouraged migrants to come to the U.S. during the election if he won. And former President Donald Trump told Fox News Biden has eroded the progress his administration made on the border. The U.S. is now on pace to reach the highest number of people caught crossing the border in 20 years. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson has this story.
More than 4,200 unaccompanied children remain in custody at U.S. Border Patrol stations, with many detained longer than the 72-hour legal limit. As the humanitarian crisis grows, the Biden administration is blaming their predecessor.
Give us the time to rebuild a system that was entirely dismantled in the prior administration.
According to DHS Secretary Mayorkas, border agents are turning away single adults and families, but not unaccompanied children.
We are building the capacity to address the needs of those children when they arrive, but we are also, and critically, sending an important message that now is not the time to come to the border.
They are often kept longer than legally allowed in tent-like structures, where some reportedly sleep on the floor. While the Biden administration won't let journalists inside to report on the situation, one lawyer getting a first-hand look described conditions to ABC News.
That is where they would spend their entire day. They did tell us that every few days they were allowed to go into a courtyard for about 20 minutes.
Attempting to get a handle on the crisis, DHS deployed FEMA to the southern border over the weekend. And in Dallas, the convention center will be used to house up to 3,000 migrant teenagers.
When we walked those facilities and we looked in those rooms that were packed, these were children with no parents. These were children that went numbers of days. Who knows what happened to them? Who knows who didn't make it? So no, don't encourage them to come.
At the border Monday, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy called for the president to take action.
This is where he should bring Air Force One. This is where he should look the people in the eye. This is where he should talk to the border agents and let them know that this is beyond a crisis.
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says the administration is working to get the kids out of shelters and into sponsored homes.
We're trying to work through what was a dismantled and unprepared system because of the role of the last administration. It's going to take some time, but we are very clear-eyed about what the problems are and very focused on putting forward solutions.
This week, the House is set to vote on two small pieces of Biden's larger immigration reform plans. Those bills would provide paths to citizenship for agricultural workers and the millions who came to the U.S. as children, known as the Dreamers. Reporting from Virginia, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Abigail, thank you. Immigration is likely to be one of the topics when President Biden holds his first news conference. That will come next Thursday. As Heather Sells reports, Biden is the first in decades to go this long without holding a formal question and answer session with reporters.
The president's team announced the press conference after weeks of mounting pressure, with media across the board calling on the commander-in-chief to stand in the White House press room and take their questions.
It's been more than a month now, and there's been no solo press conference by the new president.
The president is somebody who has been kept on a pretty tightly constricted messaging streak lately.
Joe Biden has been in office for 54 days. He hasn't yet to hold a single official press conference. That is now officially the longest a sitting U.S. president has gone without a press conference in over 100 years.
The last 15 presidents have held a full press conference within 33 days in office. Barack Obama waited 20, Donald Trump 1 week. Biden is now 55 days in. And there's plenty to talk about, from COVID relief to more than 50 executive orders. Former President Clinton's press secretary calls news conferences indispensable to the presidency. The Hill's media columnist wonders if Biden's handlers don't have confidence in him, posting a clip of a March 3rd event where the White House cut the feed right after the president offered to take questions.
And I'm happy to take questions if that's what I'm supposed to do, Nance, whatever you want me to do.
Biden is known for his fumbles and sometimes struggles to find the right word.
Governors need to be able to get funding when they need to bring their National Guard into play.
While the president has repeatedly promised to be straight and transparent, his actions prove otherwise, as President Trump's former press secretary points out.
The basement strategy is what he employed on the campaign trail. He went something like 50 days and he only took questions twice. And when he did, they were hand-picked questions. So I think his staff does not have faith that he can stand at the podium and have a press conference the way President Trump did many times.
Next week's press conference will no doubt test the president's ability to think and speak on his feet, while helping the public to understand his views on a multitude of important national issues. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Around 50 groups angered by big tech censoring and deplatforming of conservative voices nationwide want the states to step up and fight the social media giants. Paul Strand shows us how.
This letter from activist groups asks the Attorney General in each state to go after big tech for basically lying. It specifically targets Twitter, Facebook, and Google YouTube, raising questions about how each company claims objectivity, yet chooses sides.
If a company tells you, as all these big tech companies have done, that they are neutral, and then acts in an opposite manner, that may be a violation of local laws.
Media Research Center's Brent Bozell says 19 states are already fighting back with existing law.
Consumer laws that are on the books to protect citizens from unfair trade practices, and certainly what is going on with big tech applies directly to that.
Some of these tech companies are so large and so monopolistic and so abusive in their actions that we have to take actions.
Both Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and Arkansas Attorney General Leslie Rutledge are joining the fight.
We're part of these lawsuits, part of these investigations.
Rutledge is going further by pushing a bill to punish deplatforming and censoring.
To seek penalties under the Arkansas Deceptive Trade Practices Act with a penalty of a violation up to $10,000 per violation.
Big tech, though, could have something to hide, as Twitter is suing Paxton in an attempt to stop his investigation. In its suit, it accuses Paxton of unlawfully abusing his authority as the highest law enforcement officer of the state of Texas to intimidate, harass, and target Twitter.
Big tech is just a small group of uncensored, unchecked individuals who decide they want to silence us.
And Mississippi's Lynn Fitch saw that firsthand after Twitter didn't like a video she posted about human trafficking.
I put it up. Within 37 seconds, they took it down at Twitter. If Twitter or any of these platforms can just be so cavalier that they take down an attorney general, wow, that means they're going to take all of us down.
Dan Gaynor warns all those targeted need to figure out now how to communicate outside big tech's infrastructure so these bullies can't gang up and cherry pick which sites and speech to silence.
The conservative movement needs to move ahead building its own infrastructure, because as we saw with Parler particularly, that infrastructure can go away almost overnight.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Coming up, a sign of the times, a warning about 7 major trends that could dramatically change our world, including the growth of digital currency and high-tech ways to monitor what you believe. We're going to bring you the story when we come back.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
A black swan, that's the name for a global event that happens once in a century, like COVID-19. So what's coming next? One analyst says 7 gray swans. So what are these trends that will change the world, and how can we be ready for them? Gary Lane brings us this look at the signs of the times.
The COVID-19 crisis is regarded as a black swan, a once-in-a-century event affecting the entire world. So what might be next? A Christian financial expert says get ready for something known as gray swan events. Trends we're already experiencing. They're likely to transcend the pandemic. Crown Financial CEO, radio host Chuck Bentley.
The gray swan is an event that is obvious. It's out in the open. People see it. They know that it's there. They know it's a significant threat, but they tend to ignore it and do nothing about it.
Bentley explains this further in his new book, 7 Gray Swans, Trends That Threaten Our Financial Future. Among the 7, the global move toward digital currency and a cashless society. Bentley says the transition actually began years ago and has proceeded rapidly since COVID-19 hit.
With the threat that our actual physical currency may be tainted with a virus. And over time, the Bible warns that ultimately the Antichrist will control the world through the economy. And so I think we need to be aware that it's moving that direction rapidly, and to do our part to be prepared for that.
Also, when Congress considered another multi-billion-dollar stimulus package, most Americans wanted to know how much to expect in their bank accounts or mailboxes. Bentley warns temporary relief payments could easily turn into a permanent, universal basic income program.
Those type of programs are very hard to stop. But my hope is that we will not endorse this policy to see that continue, because ultimately we can't afford it. It would be like eating sugar for your diet. It feels good for a little while, but it doesn't do good in the long term.
Bentley believes this is a result of the U.S. embracing modern monetary theory. That debt doesn't matter, so the Fed goes on printing dollars indefinitely. A similar trend in Venezuela led to hyperinflation, with an overall 5-year rate that rose a whopping 53 million%. Our national debt now exceeds the size of the American economy and is expected to total 102% of the U.S. gross domestic product by the end of this fiscal year. Bentley doubts the debt will ever be repaid, and that would lead America's creditors to inflict some painful options on the public.
Some sort of austerity program, some sort of massive tax increase, a hyperinflation that would make it easier for the government to repay their debt.
The use of biometrics and social scoring also make up these gray swan trends. Airlines are pushing for COVID-19 contact tracing, and the use of smartphone apps to prove travelers have been vaccinated for the virus. And Bentley says a number of companies are already using social scoring.
Right now, if I take an Uber, not only do I evaluate the driver, but the driver evaluates me. And a private company could vote me out of their system. We're seeing that in social media right now.
We see some of this ranging from Twitter blue checks to Facebook likes and others. In China, the Communist Party uses social scoring to rate its citizens' obedience to government authority and loyalty to communist ideology. Positive scores garner favor. Those with low scores are denied jobs, travel benefits, and education. Eventually, such a system could prove dangerous for Americans unwilling to comply with acceptable speech and cancel culture norms.
Even getting things like a tax refund, being able to travel, being able to have access to certain properties or buildings or museums, I think it's coming. I think it's one we all need to have a heightened awareness of and to be very careful about supporting the things that allow ultimate control over our free speech.
So if the birth pangs of the 7 Gray Swan events are already upon us, how can we prepare and protect our families and investments? Bentley says we must prudently chart a wise path without becoming paralyzed or reacting emotionally.
We obviously need to diversify our investments. We need to get out of debt. We need to increase our savings. We need to increase our ability to persevere through what I think are going to be turbulent times ahead.
Gary Lane, CBN News.
Still ahead, Hollywood shines a bright light on the late and legendary Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. We're sitting down with the entertainment triple threat who's bringing the story to the screen. Cynthia Erivo joins us next.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Welcome to Studio 5 Uncut. This is our opportunity to share extended conversations with some of the great guests we've had on Studio 5.
You can't go anywhere on the planet and not see the impact of gospel music on popular culture.
Now you're a comedian and a Christian. You know, why is that such a baffle?
Being an artist who is Christian and an artist who is in hip-hop culture, I'm trying to find my own sound.
Studio 5 Uncut. Next.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. This is Women's History Month, and in celebration, we turn our attention to the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. She's the focus of Genius, National Geographic's Emmy-winning series, dramatizing the stories of the world's most brilliant innovators. When this season begins Sunday, we'll explore Aretha Franklin's musical genius. And in the starring role is Hollywood triple threat, Tony, Emmy, and Grammy Award-winning Cynthia Erivo. She gives us our first look at her performance in Genius, Aretha.
A marker.
Here we go. And action. The Queen of Soul.
I was looking the word up, genius, an exceptional quality. So, of course, Aretha Franklin has an exceptional quality. She has her beautiful voice, her amazing and brilliant piano playing, and she's the first American in the series, the first woman, the first person of color, and she was able to alchemize her life into sonic gold.
My singing voice has always been my guardian angel.
So we go from Harriet Tubman to Aretha Franklin. I've
read that you say you have the pleasure of playing women who've marked history with brilliance. How would you say Aretha Franklin has marked our history with brilliance?
Well, the long catalog of music that she shared with us, not just because of the songs that they were and the music that they gave us, but because of the stories they were telling. She was able to use the experiences in her life, use the emotions that she had, and infuse her music with it. And so we got to get to know her through these pieces of music. We gonna look good, we gonna feel good. Yes. And she taught if we as businesswomen in the music industry, Black women in the music industry, she taught us how to stand up for ourselves, really. And I hope people get that from watching this, that she really wanted to be a valued part of the creation of her music. And that's part of her, only part of her brilliance, on top of which she was an activist, both feminist and for civil rights. To do all of that whilst being an artist is really very special.
Your king tonight. Think about what Dr. King is trying to achieve for the Negro.
With your father and your husband by your side, I mean, who's calling the shots?
I think you have all been reading a few too many gossip columns.
When you sing respect, come on, tell us. Just give us a juicy story. Look,
I'm trying to envision and imagine the pressure on you to deliver, knowing that this is also one of your heroes, correct?
Yes, very much so. And I've said it many times, but this is the simple truth. It's just a huge, overwhelming sense of responsibility, because you really want to tell the story as fully, as truthfully, and as honestly as you can. And like, there was a still small voice in my head trying to make sure that we don't lean into mimicry or play pretending. I really wanted to try and be in the moment every time we were doing a scene, tell the story as fully as I could, listen to the music and listen for all the details, all the work that she had put in these songs. Yeah, there's a huge responsibility, but it's not one that I take lightly, and actually I relish. You know, that's where the work begins, where you actually have to put the work in to tell the story.
I'm gonna put my trust, our trust in the Lord.
I will trust in the Lord. Come on, say, I will trust in the Lord. I will trust.
A beautiful part of Aretha's life for many fans is her gospel connection as well. I think she still has the best-selling gospel album of all time. How connected were you to that part of the story?
Oh, very. Strangely enough, I was listening to gospel when I was a little girl because I don't know why, but I recognized the voices, and there's something because I'm Nigerian, there's something in the Nigerian culture that calls to the very root of where gospel begins, and it's the rhythm, it's the sounds, it's the songs that we sing. There are so many songs that are current and known now that Nigerians have been singing in their plainest ways, and then they come together and they make this new sound that I've always been connected because I recognize myself in them. And so to hear that the root of where she began, the root of what we know now, really was gospel. Just to go back to sing some of those songs really just felt good. It just feels good. You know, there's just a connection there.
That's why we celebrate her. She's the queen of soul. Your soul, mine, everybody's.
The 4-night series premieres Sunday evening on National Geographic. The episodes will stream the next day on Hulu, and all episodes will be available to stream by next Thursday, March 25th, which is Aretha Franklin's birthday. She would have been 79. For more uplifting entertainment, you can catch an all-new Studio 5 on the CBN News Channel this evening at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Coming up, another sign of the times as Christians are helping Jews move to a new home in Israel. We'll have that story for you when we come back. Please stay with us.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep. As the world watches from the outside,
it's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
While the COVID-19 pandemic has caused a major drop in Jewish immigration to Israel, Christians are helping Jews move to Israel. The International Christian Embassy of Jerusalem sponsored a rescue flight of 226 Jewish immigrants from the former Soviet Union. They landed in Israel Monday evening. Many of these immigrants tried to move to Israel months ago, but were delayed due to Israel's virus restrictions. Since the beginning of the year, the Christian Embassy has supported flights for more than 780 new Jewish immigrants. Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is actually two, but God. And here's the thought. Think of all the things that are troubling you and then add those two words to the end of it. But God. The cares of life could have taken me down, but God. My troubles could have driven me crazy, but God. I've made many mistakes, but God. With those words, you be sure to have an amazing day and be a blessing to someone else. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Thank you so much for watching. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time or online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. Email us the address right there at the bottom of your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. And you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Make it a wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow.